Okay. So if you recall, we have already seen how to do a linear regression using scikit, and we have, I think from very earlier we have been discussing that we will implement linear regression on our own, and instead of standard machine learning algorithms running and implementing linear regression, we will write all that code. So when we decided to write that code, we had a question in our mind, like when should we technically stop the training? So we started discussing error metrics, and when we were discussing error metrics, we found that for linear regression, the best measure of error, or we might also call it as cost function, is mean absolute squared error. So that's a function which indicates how well my curve or the regression line or regression curve which I guessed fits into the data points from your data set. Now, we have also seen what is confusion metrics. We have also seen what it all goes into confusion metrics and how do you exactly measure the accuracy of classification algorithms. So what we will do is we will come back to that mean squared error, and we will see like what I need to do in order to implement the code. When should I exactly stop my training, right? So we will understand that logic, and once we understand that logic, then it would be fairly easy for us to implement the code or write that inside a Python script. So let us start and analyze what exactly we are trying to do. So when we have a linear equation, and as I said, we will have few data points. So these crosses are the data points, and I want to guess a linear equation passing through this. Okay, and you always know this linear equation. Let us now when we have a polynomials of a degree, let us only focus on linear equation. Let us not focus on quadratic or higher order linear higher order regression curves. What we are focusing on trying to guess something which is of form y is equal to mx plus b. This is what we are trying to guess. So as we have already discussed that in order to guess this equation, we have this x and y. What we have to learn are we have to learn this m and b. Usually m stands for the slope and b stands for intersect. So we have to guess this too. And what I said is that we will initially assume some value of m and b. Then based on some value of m and b, we will try to improve the value of m and b such that we have a least possible error. So what is the error metric? How are we measuring the error here? We are measuring the error. If you look here, we are measuring the error by error function. So what is my error function here? Error function, or we also call it as cost function. So what is the cost function we are talking about? Mean squared error. So if I have an equation of form y is equal to mx plus b, so I want to guess m and b, right? These are the parameters which I want to guess for. So my entire code will revolve along trying to guess this m and b. So when you're trying to guess m and b, let us suppose you have decided m is equal to 2 and b is equal to 2 for the given set of data points. Just is an assumption. Okay, what is this is? This is your first guess. And how to make this first guess depends on multiple parameters. And let us suppose we have randomly made a guess that m is equal to 2, b is equal to 2. Okay. Now, when you make m is equal to 2 and b is equal to 2, what will be your error function value? So, what is the value you get for error function? Error function. How do you find? Like, what is your error? If you guess m is equal to 2, b is equal to 2. The error function is nothing but, see, now here if you look at here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. total I have 9 data points, right? Here you have a total 9 data points. So for each data point, you will calculate what is your your calculated value when m is equal to 2, b is equal to 2, and what is the difference you have from the actual expected value. So these are expected values. These points are expected actual values. Sorry, what these are? These are actual values. And what is error? Error is square of difference between uh, expected value minus actual value. So whatever it is, the difference is positive or negative. When you're doing the square, the negative value, it doesn't come into picture. So the error function would be, what would the error function? Y. So for this, for example, what I'll call is y expected minus y actual. So how many such I need to take? I need to take average of. So average of y expected minus this. And what I'm doing, I'm taking a squared error. So this is what you're doing, right? So error function is equal to average of squared values of difference between y expected minus actual values. So now if you say what is y expected, how do you calculate y expected? So if I further split this equation, so this can be further written as, remember, so y actual, you know y actual, this you get it from the data sets. How do you calculate y expected? Y expected you will calculate from your assumed values of m and b. So y expected is this, y expected is equal to mx plus b, right? So here if I replace y expected by actual value you calculate, what it would be? X, it is m into x plus b minus y actual. So whatever you get from this, the internal value which you get, square it. So this will give you some value, right? This will give you a value, right? So this value, whatever the value which you get, e, for example, if you get value e, and this e you are getting when m is equal to 2 and b is equal to 2. Let me see if I can bring this to subscript. Let me see, where are the subscript option? Okay, so what you get, error when m is equal to 2. Let me also type error is equal to when m is equal to 2 and b is equal to 2. This is what you're getting here. E is equal to 2, y is equal to 2. So now what you will do is you get some error, right? This error value, you have to reduce this error value. So you have to reduce this error value to the minimum possible. So you want to find out this function, when does this function have the least value? So what you're looking at is you want to find out the value of m and b such that this function will have the least possible value. So here now you have to do something called as gradient descent. So how do you do this gradient descent for this? Let me now explain you. So before I go to that, let me check. Have you understood what we are discussing to this point? Have you understood to what point we were talking and discussing here? Okay. So now moving ahead. So what I need to find out, at what value of m and b this function will be the minimum. The moment you guess the m and b such that this value is minimum, you have done. Your linear regression is, you have learned the linear regression values, right? So now how do I do that? So now if you see the error function is, now can you tell me, let me ask you a question. Can you tell me, is error function dependent on one single variable or two variables? So which are those two parameters which affect the value of error function? How many parameters I have and what are those parameters? So if I want to find out the least value for this, I want to know which are those two affecting factors. If I change those values, the error function's value might increase or decrease. What are those two parameters? Yes, what they are? They are m and b. So I need to find out. So I need to keep on changing this m and b. So during training, what I need to do is I need to keep on looking at the values of m and b. So in the training, in the sense, I will be iterating through this process till I reach to the lowest value of error function. So this m and b are two values on which my error function is dependent, right? So now I want to know how the error function, specifically when I have a mean squared error as a function, I would like to look at a graph which plots the effect of m and b on error function, right? So if I want to plot the effect of m and b on error function, what do you think the graph would look like? Would it be a 2D graph or would it be a 3D graph? So I want to show effect of m and b on total error function. So should I show it in a 2D graph or a 3D graph? What would be the right graph to plot the effect of m and b on the error function e? So if you consider 2D graph, for example, if I consider a 2D graph, for example, let us consider. So here, if I plot error and if I plot m, then where should I plot b? So if I plot m comma b, that would be a very bad. You can't have any value. How can you show m and b on same value? So what you do is you take another 3D axis where you say b. So now, for example, m is equal to 2, b is equal to 2, means somewhere at this point, m is equal to 2, b is equal to 2, error might be something called as, so this is the error value, right? So error could be somewhere here. So now, during next iteration, you may say m, let us make m is equal to 4, let's keep b is equal to 4. So b remains same and something here. So you will get something very 2D like structure, right? You will get a 3-dimensional structure. So in this 3-dimensional structure, you have to navigate to a point where that function has the least point of error. So how does it look? So let me show you a diagram which plots the relation between the error and m and b. Okay, so let me get that for you. Okay, so how would that graph look? That graph would look similar to this graph. Do you see this? I have an error plotted. I have a m here. See, this axis is m. Let me show you that. So this axis is m. You can see here how the m values are changing. So as and when m is 2, it is increasing. And what I have here? I have b, right? So when you plot m and b on two-dimensional axis and you plot error on third dimension, this is what your error curve looks like. So you have to find out such a combination of m and b. You have to find such a combination of m and b where this error plot has the least value. Where does it have the least value? If you look at here, so it is dropping from this side, it's dropping from this side, it's dropping from this side. So somewhere here you have the least value of this, right? So during your trainings, you might be see when you said m is equal to 2, b is equal to 2. So where is m is equal to 2? M is equal to 2 here. This is the point. And where is b is equal to 2? B is equal to 2 is this point. So somewhere here at this point you are here. When you assumed m is equal to 2, b is equal to 2. So after iteratively training, from this point, you have to keep on changing m and b such that you will come to the lowest error point here. And the moment you come to the lowest error point here, your training stops. Right? So effectively, I have not taken other side. So maybe if you take further graph, the graph could be here increasing as well. So this is like a small curve, like a small dish. Okay, so you have to stop at the lowest point. Here onwards, once again, if you change anything, it keeps on increasing. So you have to find out, you have to repeat your training process till your error value keeps on dropping. It keeps on dropping, keeps on dropping. You will reach a point where in the next iteration, the value which was dropping, it suddenly increases. So you feel that you have reached the lowest depression. Here, if you further manipulate anything, you are going to the ascent of that graph or a curve, right? So you will stop at the same. Now the question is, when you are at this point, m is equal to 2, b is equal to 2, how does your program know that I have to move in this direction? As a programmer, you have to find out how you move in a right direction so that after doing a repeated iterations, I reach to a point. If you do not know this method, maybe you are at this. So if you are randomly taking m is equal to b, m is equal to b, if you every time you are making random guess, next point you can make random guess here. Next point you can make random guess here, somewhere here. So iteratively, you might infinitely iterate, provided randomly somewhere you will guess this, right? So making a random guess every time and checking if we are low is not a good one. So what you need to do is, the point at which you are, you have to find out from this point what should be my next direction. So how do you know when you are on a specific curve or a plane, when you are on a specific plane or a curve, how do you know that the magnitude of next point on that curve will be less or a higher? What is that mathematical concept which defines you how that curve or a line increases or a decreases? Can you guess? What is that mathematical concept which tells you when you are on a specific point on that curve or a line of that function, which tells you how the behavior of a function is, whether from this point onwards you will be going downwards or whether you will be going upwards? So what is that mathematical concept? Just guess. See, I'm not expecting right answer. Guess one. Our minds are very better than machine learning. So whatever guess you get, most probably mind makes a guess something which you have learned, something which is in your mind. Remember, randomly nothing comes into your mind. So just guess. What do you think? What is that mathematical concept which defines how this function grows or how this function behaves? What guess it comes to your mind? And it never happens that there is no guess. Your mind always has answers. No matter how silly questions you ask to your brain, it always has some random or some answer. So I just want that answer. Put it here. No issues. Whether it's right or wrong, we will discuss. Yeah, Maurice has one answer. Anyone else? Okay, it seems same point. Okay, so let me tell you, the mathematical concept which defines you how you gonna come down up is nothing but it's a slope. Yes, you are right in saying the slope, but technically what we say is that instead of slope, we also call it as gradient. What does gradient means? Gradient means slope. right? So what you do is you calculate the slope at the point where is, so you have calculated function, right? So from to this function, when e is equal to, when m is equal to 2, b is equal to 2, what you do is you calculate the slope of this function. What do you calculate? You calculate slope of this function. Slope means gradient. You calculate the gradient of that function, and gradient always denotes how is the function steepest ascent. So where is the steepest ascent of the method? So whenever you take any slope always tells you how the further points values are increasing. If slope is positive, if slope value, whatever the slope value get is positive, it means that the function is increasing for the next point. If the slope is decreasing, what it indicates, that the function value will decrease when you subsequently ascend through the curve. I hope you're getting. For example, if I have a linear equation, so this I have, so here you have calculated slope. So slope will be positive because next point which you're getting, it is increasing, right? If I have a linear equation in this order, and if you calculate slope at this line, you will get a negative slope. Why? Because the further points, negative slope indicates that you are moving downwards. Are you getting? So whenever you calculate slope of a curve or a surface or a plane, it indicates the direction towards which you are always, you will be reaching to the highest point. So slope always indicates, the slope value indicates the step increment which you have to take in order to reach to a point where the function has the maximum value, right? So if I now, let me explain you once again why I'm talking about. So this is my 2D. I have a linear equation. Take a point here and you calculate a slope here. You are calculating a slope. Here, if you calculate, you will get a positive slope. Positive slope is nothing but what it indicates. So what are the slope value? You get a slope value of 1.5 or something. So what is 1.3 or something? What it indicates is you need to take an increment of 1.3, so that if you keep on taking plus 1.3 plus 1.3 plus 1.3, you will reach to the point where the function has the maximum value, right? So slope always gives you a direction where that function has the highest value. So you can call it as steepest ascent. Descent means downwards, ascent means increase. So gradient or slope always points to a direction where the function would have highest value, steepest ascent. Instead of calling highest value, let us call it as, it points to a direction where it is steepest ascent. So now, why a dropping line? For example, if I have a line this, you calculate a slope, you will always get a negative value. The slope is always negative. I think for a linear equation, I think it should be y2 minus y1 by x2 minus x1. If you take just the division of this, it will give you a slope. So when you consider linear equations which drop, right? And here if you calculate the slope, as I said, what slope gives you? A direction where the function has the highest value. So in this case, the slope will be negative because you have to keep on doing negative, what I would say, negative movement, so that you will reach to the highest point, because highest point here to this line is to the backward of this negative ones. That's why you will have a slope of dropping lines in a negative one. So every time, whenever you want to go to the highest point of this curve, what you need to do, from the point at which you are, you need to just add the slope value, right? So if you're just adding the slope value, it will take you to the highest direction, right? But in our case, what is our objective? Is our objective is to move to the highest point on this surface or to the lowest point on the surface? Let me know in the chat window. What is our objective in this? I need to move to the lowest point in this here. So now if I want to move lowest point, what should I do here? Should I add slope or subtract slope? So what I need to do is, from the given A and B values. So whatever M and B values which I have assumed, to this M and B values, I need to subtract the slope value. What I need to do? Subtract the slope value. So when you keep on subtracting the slope value, it will automatically take you to a point on the surface where the surface has the lowest value. And that lowest value is the where we have to stop our training, because technically it is not possible you will get a better performance than that. Are you getting? So in our case, what we need to do, calculate the slope of this equation, and whatever the slope which we get, slope value we get, subtract it from your assumed values. Subtract it. Just subtract it. So whether it would be subtract, would be plus, minus, negative, whatever it is, it doesn't matter to you. Just keep on subtracting. And you will reach to a point where you will have the steepest point on the curve where the error will be the least for the given M and B values. Are you getting? Have you understood this to this point? Yes. So now we know how to do this. We have this y, we have to take this average values and that. So here what we will have is, we have a x data points. In Python we will have a x data points and we will have a y data points. So we have to always calculate this average function and do that. Now the question remains is, how do I calculate slope of this equation? So if it is linear equation, yes, if I know linear y is equal to mx plus n, that's fine. But remember, we are not calculating slope of this. We are calculating the slope of this highly complex. I'm using the word highly complex, but okay, there are far more complex curves than this. So for this complex 3D surface, I want to calculate the plane of this complex 3D surface, which is now governed by two factors. So what is that mathematical concept which gives you gradient of any dimensional surface? It could be 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D, or any high complex dimensional surface. What is that mathematical concept which gives you the gradient of that point? What is that mathematical concept? How do you calculate slope of a surface, plane, or line? So this concept you have already studied. Maybe I think in M2, I guess. M2 stands for Maths 2, Engineering Maths 2 or something. Or I think you should have studied this in Applied Mathematics 1. See, the most unfortunate situation in our Indian curriculum is that when we study these subjects, we do not relate that. We only learn them in terms of theoretical perspective, but we never look at practical perspective. The practical perspective of engineering maths is so high. The problem with why students fear the engineering mathematics is that the staff who teaches that never correlates with actual use of that concepts in engineering discipline. But remember, those syllabus bits which you had in M1, M2, and Applied Mathematics 1 and 4, all those are heavily useful in computer science. The problem is that we in a service, and our Indian IT industry is mostly service oriented. So they never focus. We always focus on using application tools, frameworks. But when you work in a product development company, when you work on scientific simulation models and all that, I think if you may not be knowing that. How many of you know SpaceX? You know SpaceX? SpaceX has its what do I say? It has its own launch vehicle called as Falcon 9 Heavy. Do you know what operating systems, what programming language supports the SpaceX Falcon 9? Have you ever wondered like what software could be there on the SpaceX 9 which takes care of that reverse landing? Have you seen the reverse landing of Falcon 9? You go, I'll share that video, you'll understand that. So SpaceX Falcon 9 launch vehicle, its entire software is powered by Linux operating system. And what programming language they use C++. Remember, the complexity you can imagine when an entire, we call that reverse landing of SpaceX Falcon 9 launch vehicle as engineering marvel, because rarely we can have rockets which can land back on that, and it was a private player who has succeeded that. So the entire technology and software programming aspect is open source. They use Linux operating system, and all their control systems are written in C++. So I'll share a YouTube video, which is a very good YouTube video, which explains you how exactly, where exactly it uses, what exactly it uses. So talking about this, let me come back to our mathematical point. We were talking about the mathematical concept which gives you slope of any complex surface is, we call it as derivatives. Do you know what are derivatives? Did you recall? Differentiation. Technical, what we call it is differentiation. Differentiation gives you slope, and integration gives you the entire surface based on that slope. So reverse of differentiation is integration, reverse of integration is differentiation, and together we call it as calculus. Calculus is a mathematical subject which deals with all this concept. It's such a heavy useful subset. But don't worry, we will not be learning any calculus or something. That I'll tell you what it is. So now I want to find out the slope of this surface. As you know that this slope of this surface is not governed by one single variable. See, had this been done by a single variable, I would have taken the differentiation with respect to single variable. So what I call it as dy by dx, right? So this differentiation, you take it when the y function is completely dependent on one single variable x, right? This is what we take differentiation, single derivative. But in my case, what are the function which you're taking this y, this average? Here it is what function I need to derive. So I need to derive e. What is e? E I have. This is the e function, right? And this e function is dependent on single variable or two variables. It is dependent on two variables. Two variables affect that, m and b. So what I do, if a function is dependent on two variables, how do I differentiate? Does single derivative work? No. What you need to do? You need to take partial derivatives. Do you know what is partial derivatives? So what I do is, now I take what do you call? You call it as dou or daba. We have I prefer to call it as dou. Dou e with respect to m. Sorry for this drawing. We take dou e with respect to m, and we also take differentiation of this error function with respect to b. So when we have two partial derivatives, by using chain rule, we can now have a combined derivative of e with respect to m and b. So what we do is, we need to take a partial derivative of this error function with respect to m and with respect to b. Fortunately, I have done that derivation. We have that equation. As of now, just remember that how do we get those two slopes? It is by applying partial derivative. So that slope value we calculate by the output of partial derivative on this error function. We will implement that partial derivative equation, and rest is to just iterate and you will get an answer. So I think we are almost done with today's lecture slot. We will see the program in tomorrow's lecture. Fine? Okay. Have you understood this? Have you understood this lecture? So I understand this has been a little bit technical, little bit deep and conceptual, but see, ML means what it is. Now let me also explain you. Whatever machine learning which we are learning, and most probably whatever the machine learning which you will do in IT industry, especially if you are in India, at least for your 5 to 6 years from here on, whatever ML you do, the ML which you will be doing is called as applied machine learning. So we will not be working on creating new ML algorithms. Our main study of this curriculum and course is to know how, where, why, and why I need to apply machine learning, right? But we are not studying anything related to developing my own machine learning algorithms. So today's lecture is area which we have just touched upon, which teaches you how to write your own machine learning algorithms. So no matter what machine learning algorithm you write, whatever we saw today will be the basic of that. So any machine learning algorithm, you have to find out partial derivative, you have to see how to descend, where to stop, and all that. So for you, all this was done by your Python scikit inside. And what we had to do is just one small method, model.fit, that did this all this work for you. So just to give you overview of this domain of machine learning, where we learn how to write algorithms, I am taking this linear regression. So I can teach you this aspect of machine learning as well for classification and very complex algorithms. But unfortunately, this is not what our syllabus, or unfortunately, this is not what our Indian IT industry expects from us. Are you getting? So what we are doing is we are doing applied ML. So whatever machine learning projects which most of you students are doing, your project is a demonstration of applied machine learning, not machine learning. Understand this difference. In market, you see a lot of courses. So sometimes I get quite angry. You see that 1599 become master in ML. You get lot of ads, right? They say 1 day workshop in ML, you will become ML guru. This is just a bullshit. I would say this is bullshit. You will never become a guru in 1 day. This is something which takes years of experience and to do all this, right? And we have most of the one which you get on internet, that everything is what related to applied machine learning. So what we will do is we will implement the code for this, and then we will stop at this point itself. We will not go further deep into this area. But any student who wishes to explore this area, like he might, now you might not be here, right? But okay, we do always have some students who have a spark that, sir, I want to do career in this writing, my ML, my maths is good, I find it interesting, I'll work on this. Then it is always good. See, if you work in this area, you might not get job immediately, but this will open a area where you can invent your own algorithm. And fortunately, if that algorithm is better than what existing model says, you can have a next Google with you. You can be a next what do I say, you can be next technological startup, right? So remember, even Google was founded as a part of academic project. Lot of startups which you see right now which are ruling the industry, they all have started as an academic project. Okay, so I hope I gave you proper introduction what exactly it is and all that. So I hope I have properly explained you this concept so that tomorrow we can write the Python program. Okay, so I'll record, anyhow I have recorded this, I'll put it on YouTube today by afternoon. Watch it and make sure you understand this part of today's session so that tomorrow you will easily understand tomorrow's program. Okay, so that's it for today's lecture. Mark your attendance, you should be fine to leave. See, and I'm seeing that some students are not typing the attendance, and they are not responding. In that case, usually your attendance will not be marked. So make sure, if some of your friend has just kept the mobile and doing some other parallel task, ring him and tell him to mark his attendance, or else he will lose his attendance. Okay.